I worked with people out of MIT, incubators, CEOs, entrepreneurs, things like that. So a lot of high performance people. But then I've also worked with like losers, let's say. So this is also more intensely. This is everything from 25-year-old
Losers.
kid who's living in his mom's basement playing video games all
Oh,
day,
not
to
allowed.
people who are even homeless. So I worked with like basically like
Homeless.
the whole
How did
spectrum.
they pay you?
And yeah,
You used the word losers there. You did little air quotes for anyone that can't see you right now. I'm really interested when you talked about incels as well, whether the way society is and the way that we're heading in terms of clarity over what it is to be a man has had any impact on those people that you referred to as incels. Like like, because we now have this digital world that we can live our lives in as a distraction from the real world, and there's now more confusion than ever over what it is to be a man and the role of a man in a, and then we look at the stats around suicidality, and I think in Europe the biggest killer of men under the age of 45 is themselves currently.
Mm-hmm.
Is the shifting idea of what it is to be a man having an impact on people's sense of self and their purpose?
100%. So there's a crisis that's going on in men, and people think that this is new, but I don't think it's new. It's always been there. So if you look at like, even 50, 60.
So, first of all, what is incel? It, for those who don't know, involuntary celibate. So, a guy that cannot get laid, okay? First of all. And basically, what this guy says, these people, okay, the main reason they, ride the sewer slide, right, is because they can get laid, and that's what society constantly is telling them that they should do in order to be appreciated, by others. And since they cannot procreate, that means that they are irrelevant for society, and they live their whole life like that, and they come to the conclusion, inevitable conclusion, that the best way to go through it is just don't play the game, basically. Also, some of these people, they go this route, the left side, and then you have the other branch where they turn out to toxic masculinity due to social media and so on and so forth. And those people are taught, oh my god, you gotta make money, you gotta be a high value male, you gotta do XYZ, and if you don't achieve XYZ, then you're useless, and that also fucks your brain. And foremost, it will again kind of, you're doing you're going the right side, but you might end up again on the left branch at the end of it, right? So you gotta be a bit careful with what you choose to consume on the internet, because everything right now is extremely confusing, especially if you're young. If you're young and you don't know what's up, and you don't have good parenting around that didn't taught you exactly good morals, then you can really easily fall into this trap of toxic masculinity, as this guy is mentioning, right? And leads a lot of people are very confused. What exactly is the answer to be um, accepted by society?
Years ago, 80% of suicides are still going to be men. So
Obviously,
historically, men have been killing themselves for like 100 years, and no one's been paying attention. We're just noticing
because
now
nobody
because the problem
cares.
seems to be getting worse. So there's a couple of things that are really interesting to understand. So one is that if we look at what technology is doing to our brains, the first thing that it's doing is it is externalizing our attention.
For sure. For
So if you
sure.
look back, like let's say 1,000 years ago, as human beings, we spent a lot.
So before he goes into it, basically what he tries to say is Instagram. Bro, Instagram is fucking our minds real bad. You just constantly look at how people live their life, and you think this is the way I should live mine, and you never have the time with all these stimuli to figure out exactly what you want from your own. You just take examples from the outside world, which can lead sometimes to goals that you shouldn't have uh, put into your checklist to begin with, because those people are different from you. Those people are also acting at the same time. So you might end up wanting something that you personally would have not felt accomplished, achieving regardless, and you live your whole life trying to get this one thing, to think that that will fill the hole in your soul, but you end up just the ending in even a bigger hole than you were initially.
More time with ourselves. So let's say that you and I go out hunting.
Yeah, back in the days you didn't
and
have
then
phones.
let's say you shoot an
So
arrow at a
obviously.
deer and you miss, and then I shoot an arrow at a deer and I hit. So in this moment, I'm superior to you. And then we
Oh,
pick up
no.
the deer and we're carrying it back, and
The
then we have
Giga
about
Chad
2 or 3
hunter.
hours to take that emotional insult, and we kind of process it. We just give our mind space to process it, which it does automatically. Now, if you look at what happens in people's days, they don't actually have any time to process what happens to them because we are so constantly distracted by
Bombarded
external things.
by
So
information.
I don't know if you're like this, but I was in this point where I was idiotically efficient. So I would wake up in the morning and I would listen to a podcast while I'm like doing my exercise or whatever. And then even when I'm cooking, I'm listening to a lecture. And then like when I'm walking to the train, I have earbuds in and I'm listening to a lecture there. On the train, I'm reading. I wanted my life to be completely efficient. I didn't want to waste a single moment.
I literally listen to the music in the
Grinding.
shower. It's
Right? So we don't want to waste
I don't do
time.
that.
So if you really think about
Fuck
it, where's
that.
the attention of your mind is pointed outside of you. And so then what happens is once we do not pay attention to ourselves, we lose sight of our internal signals. Literally in the same way that if you raise a child in a dark cave, the photoreceptors in their eyes won't develop. They will atrophy. So anything that the mind does not get access to will start to atrophy. If I don't practice Spanish, I'm going to forget Spanish.
So basically, well, I agree for sure with what he's saying. Basically, what he's saying is that it's tied to reintrospection or whatever the word for it is thinking about yourself, what you enjoy in life, what do you think about the external world. You know that the thought that it's think of yourself as you have another person inside you and you kind of having this monologue with yourself, and you asking yourself, am I happy with what I have, am I content, and so on and so forth. And that voice becomes of lower volume, especially in today's day and age where constantly you're being bombarded with social media bullshit and brain rot 24/7. And that thing, you might say, it's very bad because for many you cannot keep up with the fact that sometimes you will tell yourself, hey, my life sucks, and that scares people. But there's a thing about this, words, these thoughts, they want to guide you to a better path. Usually it's like that, right? So even though you say, okay, today I'm living a shitty life, if you ask yourself a bit more, why am I living a shitty life, what can I change about, what are the actions that I can take to change it, that could lead to a brighter future. But people don't have time to begin even this monologue with themselves, so they end up on goddamn, I don't know, Andrew Tate bullshit, and they say, oh, okay, rather than thinking about how my life sucks and how should I change it, because that's a bit hard, and that also requires me to basically admit that I failed at some point, which people don't want that. People don't want to admit that their life sucks. They would rather let somebody else guide them to a path that they don't even know. It's like they tell you what to do, but you don't think even for 1 second, is the goal that I would achieve by doing those steps something that I personally would want. It's so simple. Just think, would I like to have this? Would I like to want this? It's so simple. And yet people are so distracted from this that they get very lost, and eventually like he's gonna mention probably they go on this path where nothing makes sense, nothing is worth living. They tried so many times, they failed so many times, and the only option they got is like, just turn off your brain, it's over, the game over.
The brain is a very efficient organ. So as we externalize our attention, we lose sight of our internal signals. We don't know who we are anymore. And now if I don't know who I am, how do I figure out who I'm supposed to be? I pay attention to the outside. Where are the answers? They're on the outside.
Big mistake.
So this person is talking about masculinity. This person is talking about what it
Big
means to be a man.
mistake.
This person is talking about what it means to be a man. And now since I don't have any internal source of information, I'm trying to figure out what it means to be a man from the outside world. And this is when men get truly fucked. Because what it means to be a man, we are getting all kinds of mixed signals. So on the one hand, it means being physically fit. On the other hand, it means being a provider. On one hand, it means having sex with as many women as you can find. On the other hand, it means having sex with just one woman and being a really solid man and being a good father. And then there's also people telling us that being a man means that you're shit, right? That you're toxic, that your testosterone level makes you violent, that you're...
Before we go into that. So, once again, the meaning of man, it's, at least in my opinion, should come from you. It's like the meaning of life. It's should be catered per person individually, right? I don't think it should be like if somebody should be telling you how to be a man. It's something you should figure out, right? But that's the issue. People don't think about it. They just are being told. Yes. Also, people like the bullshit that people tell you that you're toxic. Yeah, I wonder, well, if you think that about yourself, how will you end up in life? Constantly telling you're a piece of shit. It's just so ridiculous. Also, like, why would you come to that conclusion? Why, in the first place? Because men are shit for what reason? It's like people say, you're this certain type of, you're part of this group. It means you're a thief. It means you're a criminal just from the, from the group you're associated to, which is it's just fucked up, right? So I could say that this can apply similarly to this train of thought with men being toxic. Okay, so some of them, yes, definitely they are. I can't deny that. But that doesn't mean that all of them are. That's kind of, you're pushing this agenda way too much, and that just alienates everybody else around you.
Evil, that you're privileged, that there's a patriarchy, all this kind of stuff. So we're getting all this information from the outside about what it means to be a man.
Privileged, for real.
And so the other, there are all kinds of interesting ramifications of this. So men in today's society are not allowed to complain. So if you complain and you're a successful person or a privileged person, everyone is going to think you're arrogant. Everyone is going to think, oh my God, who's this fucking guy? This guy doesn't know what my life is like. How does he have any right to complain? And even your mind will tell you this. You'll look at these people and you'll be like, yeah, I don't have a right to complain. But now we need to stop for a second and think about what it does to your psychology when you as a human being are not allowed to articulate your suffering.
So I'm going to go ahead and say it as a guy. I'm a complainer, and I know exactly what he's talking about. People would be so annoyed when I start going too much into the complaining, life sucks, whatever. Because it's kind of braggy, number one. It looks like, you're kind of egocentrical, narcissistic, number two. It looks like you don't give a shit. It's so bad. And especially to women, like if you're with a girl around, the worst thing you can do is complain or say that you are sad or, God forbid, you cry. It's just seen as weakness. And men have been taught for decades, millennia even, to not show signs of weaknesses. And I feel this is, it's ingrained in our psyche since prehistoric times, because back in the days, if you showed you have a weakness, like you're feeling bad, you're depressed, whatever, somebody will come with the club and boom, hit you in the head. But in today's day and age, that's I would think not gonna happen. Maybe in mid school, and that's still, that's kind of fucked up. You still can be vulnerable. But all I'm gonna say is, complaining, for for shit and giggles, that's okay. But if you go into, let's get real for a moment here, and you start complaining like that, nobody's gonna appreciate it. Nobody. Maybe you can do that to your parents if you're lucky, and maybe to one or two friends. But I would say to your partner, do not ever do that. Don't do that. It is what it is, and that's fucked up. But has been ingrained into our culture for millennia. It's at this point, changing it is gonna be extremely difficult.
I've worked with people who've grown up in abusive households where children will say to their parents, "Mommy, Daddy, I'm hurting." And the parent smacks them across the face. "How dare you? You're so lucky. You don't realize the sacrifices I make for you." It's traumatizing to the child when they say, "I am suffering," and no one listens. This is what we're doing to the generation of men. People are saying, "I am suffering." For 100 years, men have been killing themselves. 80% of suicides are men. The most dangerous thing for a man under 45 is themselves. And these people have been literally killing themselves because no one has been listening to them. So in the same way that you grow up with as a child in a household that's abusive, where no one takes you seriously, no one listens to your suffering, and now we even have successful men who are not allowed to complain.
It's for sure, it's really annoying that, first of all, you gotta deal with all the bullshit that the world has to throw out your way, like everybody else, of course. But there is a distinct, how should I put it? There's a difference. For women, there is a support group. They're friends. They listen to them, even though maybe they don't care in reality, but they still do not make fun of their suffering like men do for each other. That's the issue. What you can do as a guy when you're in your friend group, you either are funny, you either are aggressive, but being sad and depressed or being real is viewed as an extremely no. That's a no-go. That's taboo, basically. And that if you are not able to internalize it on your own, and you are relying on support from the exterior world, unless you go to a therapist, you're fucked. You're fucked because ain't nobody gonna listen to you. Nobody cares about the struggles you go through. You gotta push through every day with a straight face, poker face, and when you wanna cry, go into the shower. Nobody ain't gonna listen to you because nobody wanna listen to you in the first place. And that's kind of fucked up once you realize the world, they don't give a shit about you. But the reality is, and I'm gonna go say it, after years of me being frustrated at the world not giving a shit about me, I realized something like a light bulb, lighting up on top of my head. And I realized something extremely important. The world doesn't give a shit about nobody. It can pretend to give a shit about some people. But in reality, the world, everybody is focused on their own tiny, sphere of influence. They cannot use their their time to focus on somebody else because they have so much shit to deal with themselves. And in a way, once you realize you're not on your own when it comes to dealing with the world by yourself, it's kind of like you finally realize, you know what, this is the way the game is played. And I'm not the one, not in the same, I'm in the same boat as everybody else. That's the reality. It could look like some people actually get some support from other people, and that's cool and all, but that's just an exception, like one in 100,000. Like you shouldn't be focusing on the exceptions. You should be focusing on the fact that life sucks. What are you gonna do about it? And I think that's a lesson that I learned after many years of complaining about the world, about feeling frustrated. Because let me tell you, I felt extremely frustrated at the world. I mean, think about it. Back in mid school, I got bullied quite a lot, and that fucked my psyche. It just fucked me up real bad. I was very frustrated at the world. When you are, like he said, when you are young and you get traumatized, it's like multiplier. It's not like it's not one trauma, it's like 10, because it's very hard for you to process it when you are young. So it fucked me up real bad throughout my life, but eventually, with a decent group of friends I had that, I got lucky to be around. I kind of managed to get out of it, and also through my own work. Obviously, I worked hard at my career and all and everything. I kind of realized that I should give myself the due respect that I deserve. Just that's what I think the men need to realize is the person that you need to impress the most is yourself, and you do so by just reintrospecting, figuring out, doing some action that could lead perhaps to a goal that you would want to reach. But yeah, the world doesn't give a shit. They don't. So yeah, figure out how you're gonna make yourself happy because ain't nobody gonna do that for you. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
So the psychological impact is the same. Anytime you have a human being who is suffering in some way and they cannot find connection with another human being, they cannot find compassion with another human being, that person is going to feel isolated. And if you look at the statistics on suicide, it's very interesting. So the number one thing that correlates with male suicide is not depression, and this is super scary. There's one study I saw recently that suggests that 50% of men who kill themselves have no history or evidence of mental illness. And this, I believe the statistic in my clinical practice because I know what depression looks like. I know what bipolar disorder looks like. And half the men that I've worked with, at least, are not actually mentally ill. See, mental illness means a pathology of the mind, which means that the mind is malfunctioning. Most of the suicidal men that I work with, their mind isn't malfunctioning.
They just make it's like a formula in their mind, x plus y equals z, and they say, okay, this formula is dictating that life is not worth living for. And if the formula says so, why should I waste my time, right? If they say, okay, I see my future, the future is looking grim, the present is grim, everything I'm gonna go through is just gonna be struggle. So what's the point playing the game? And that you could say, oh, is that depression? Or is it just the fact that, they kind of calculated in their mind what's gonna happen? Are they interested in living their life? Not really. Fuck that, right?
Genuinely have a life that is no longer worth living.
Sure.
They're looking at things and objectively realizing that there's no way out of this situation. So they turn to suicide. So I know it's kind of like a very controversial statement, but
I don't know
I think
about
that's
that.
what my clinical practice
think
has
it's
shown, and there's
very-
some research to even back that up. So if we sort of look at what's going on with men, we're sort of, they have nowhere to turn to. And the number one thing that correlates with it is not mental illness, but is a sense of thwarted belongingness. So this is kind of like
So they're getting lonely, basically. And obviously, loneliness can link to insanity. So, first of all, you go crazy. And, yeah. What else? Depressed, sad. Feel like there's no point because, I am an antisocial person, of course. Yes, I understand that most people aren't, but I can see, and because I had a group of friends I could constantly hang out with, is that hanging out with people kind of makes it easier for you to realize maybe there's a chance to life. I mean, maybe I meet somebody, or maybe there's a point to live because the next week I'm gonna hang out with my boys, right, or something like that. I don't know. If you don't hang out with anybody, you're just gonna be, all day inside your room, and you're just gonna. It's like you're in a microwave, and you slowly are being. The heat is turned up, and you're just gonna end up being like, fuck this,
multivariate regression analysis. But basically what happens is what causes people to kill themselves is they try to connect with others and they get rejected. So it's specifically a very specific research term called thwarted belongingness. So I try to belong to a group, and that group, or multiple groups usually, will thwart my attempts to join the tribe, to join the community. And this is what actually correlates a lot with suicidality. So what's going on with men right now is that we really don't allow them to suffer, because then you're not manly. And we're so externalized with our attention that we're not connecting with ourselves. And so we're looking to other people to tell us what it means to be a man. But that may or may not work for you, right? That may have been what worked for them. So then we kind of get into this problem where we're disconnected from ourselves, and then like the world doesn't accept us, we're not allowed to suffer, and that's what creates the problem.
What is the remedy to this?
So I think the first thing is we must.
So he's saying, yeah, you do not know what you want. You're looking for external validation. You don't get that external validation. And finally, that leads to you giving up, basically. And solution, don't look for external validation. Learn to first, if you want, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Once you accept yourself, you're going to find it much easier for yourself to make bonds with other people. So what I'm trying to say is, as a guy, I think as a human being, regardless, if you want to make friends, the number one factor that you should take into consideration is confidence, right? And confidence is basically, you know, trusting yourself and your, you know, your past actions, your present selves, everything that is about yourself, you know, not thinking about everything being a mistake that you say and all that bullshit. And confidence is, you know, I think is the easiest gained through retrospection and, you know, realizing who you are and accepting yourself, because that's what you do through retrospection. You constantly measure what you're doing, where you're going, figuring out yourself. And I think the natural conclusion to introspection is that you gain more confidence for yourself, right? I hope so. I do hope so. In most cases it will. Sometimes it won't, because you're just so fucked up that you say it's no point. But most of the times, especially for myself, once I introspected a bit for myself, I figured that I'm a cool guy. And most people will do so, and you don't have to be Andrew Tate to figure out that maybe you're a cool person. Don't have to have the Bugatti and Buscari and the Lamborghini and the 10 girls to appreciate yourself. Because let me be honest, who was there when you were struggling? Apart from yourself, who was there that you know, went through all the bullshit you went through throughout your life? Yourself. So shouldn't you give at least a bit of respect to that person that was alongside your journey through this awful landscape that is our lives? You know, why do you have to put him down is what I'm saying. That thing will fuck you up. If you put yourself down, what do you expect? Other people to accept you?
Reconnect with ourselves, right? So when you're kind of saying like, why does everyone think, oh, I need to like achieve this, I need to make this money and things like that. Where did you learn that you should do all that? You learned
social
all that
media,
from the outside.
Instagram.
Right? So we get fed all of these ideas, because if you look at all these influencers, what are they doing? They're never crying. They're smiling. Some of
Showing
them will
them
even
some money.
pay very attractive women to take pictures with them.
Wow.
Well, some of them are crying, but they're crying and uploading it for ulterior motives, right?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of them are genuinely suffering too. But then it's also like, I mean, there's all kinds of
crying.
weird stuff going on. So one thing is like people say that men, we don't allow men to be emotional nowadays, but people say, oh, men are allowed to cry. So this is something that I experienced even.
Bullshit. If you hear somebody say that, it's like, you know, they're setting up a bear trap for you to lay your paw in. Never listen to that. You are allowed to cry, but only by yourself, nobody around. Never. Do not do that. Do you know why? We men are viewed as fucking like, oh, you crying? Oh, you little baby, oh my god, you so gay, yo. Look at the baby, he crying. Oh, life is so hard for you. There is a patriarchy. Why are you crying? I mean, I should be crying if you're crying, because your life is much easier than mine. Rather than listening to all the bullshit, just don't mind with it. Just don't do it. Especially, like, you can do it maybe with your parents. Maybe. But with your girlfriend? Oof. She's setting up a big trap. Because she's saying you're so sensitive, blah, blah, blah. I really like that. Yeah, maybe once. do it a second time, she's gonna immediately find another, partner to, share her emotions with, but he's not allowed to. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. Just, it's bullshit. As a guy, don't do that. In front of people, I'm saying. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't cry. I'm saying you shouldn't cry in front of people. It's just, you're setting yourself for failure, is all I'm saying. Think about all the moments you cried in front of people and that helped you in life. I don't think there's anybody there that was like, oh yes, apart from your therapist, obviously, or maybe your parents. But apart from those people, tell me a story that oh yeah, you had a really good time when you started crying in front of some strangers. Just gonna laugh at you, or the worst, they're gonna feel like you're pathetic, which is still real bad.